My name is Lindsey Doctorman. I teach at Wayne State College in the Business and Economics department. So why am I here, right? Because all of you, how many of you are into economics? I heard the word a few times yesterday and I was so excited. Yes. So my primary appointment is teaching. I have a small sliver of research, and with that, I am trying to do something that I love and not something that has just money attached to it. So I told this idea to Bill Crayons, and here I am. My interest is at the level of a lit review and some brainstorming. So I'm going to ask you to help me out a little bit, but I'll tell you about myself. I am not from Nebraska. I grew up really far away in Yankton, South Dakota, and went to undergrad in Moorhead, Minnesota, at Minnesota State University Moorhead in business and econ. And then I went and did my graduate and research work at Colorado State in agricultural and resource economics, where I did a little bit of work with water quantity and quality issues, trying to solve a problem in the Arkansas River in southeast Colorado, and also looking at groundwater wells in the Republican River Basin. And then I got into looking at tourism and tourism behavior and tourism valuation and contingent valuation method and a lot of different methods. And got into that with my research that took me to New Zealand. They wanted me to help with a water issue that got resolved before I showed up, so I just taught. And then I went to Sweden for a couple of years and looked at climate change impacts with forest problems. They had a severe wind storm that went and blew down all their trees, and they didn't know what to do. So they brought in myself, a biologist, a land use planner, and a forester, and they gave us 2 years to just kind of see if we could get along and make some progress. And then I went to Alaska and I started teaching some more, and here I am at Wayne State. So my harebrained idea was, along the way, I started falling in love with more than just economics, but behavioral economics. Does anyone know what that? It's a new branch of economics, kind of shaking a little bit of the core of economics, so it's really exciting. But is anyone familiar with this idea? Behavioral, the ones in the front. So there's a concept of behavioral econ that's, I think, possibly a key to stakeholder engagement, and it's called nudging. And so I'm going to read the definition of it. It stems from the branch of econ, and it takes into consideration we make mistakes. Isn't that great? The assumption of economics is we're fully rational, we have all the information, all of our decisions are always made, there's no mistakes, and we're all perfect, which is ideal, but it's not reality. So this takes into consideration we make mistakes. We don't always have information. And so nudging is any aspect of the way choices are made that changes people's behavior in a predictable way. It presents the choices to a decision maker in a way that makes the decisions easy to avoid and at a low cost. It's not a mandate, and it's often viewed as an alternative to regulation. It can be as simple as how you present information to the decision maker. So I have 5 key types of nudging, and to get you engaged and to keep my teaching going, I'm going to ask you to take some notes. Because I don't have a PowerPoint. You won't let me have a PowerPoint. It's freaking me out. So I need you to just, on a piece of paper, write 1 to 5. Just write the numbers 1 to 5. And you just have to write 1 to 2 words for each number. So these are all 5 different types of nudges. This is your charge. I'm going to give you the nudge. I'm going to briefly explain it, give you an example, and I want you to think about how that would work in maybe your own personal life, in your work life, or how we could improve water quality in Nebraska. Number 1, default rules. Default rules. So these are rules that just by making, you can opt into something or you can opt out of something. Just checking a box. Literally the act of just checking a box. If you can flip that, you can make dramatic changes. In Australia, they did this because when you go to get your driver's license, they ask you if you want to be an organ donor. And for us, we usually have to tick the box to say, yes, we want to be an organ donor. What they did in Australia is they made it so that you had to tick the box to not be an organ donor. And the percentage of organ donors in Australia is up to like upper 90%, just from the act of ticking a box. So if there's a default rule that we could just flip, I don't know, just one idea. The other one is simplification, ease, convenience, easy peasy. Keep it simple, silly. We're not stupid. Keep it simple, smarty. I wanted to tell you 10, but then I'm like, this doesn't work out if I'm trying to keep it simple. One thing they try to do to promote, these aren't research I have done. This is my lit review, things I've read about. Trying to promote healthy eating habits in schools. Instead of putting the junk food at the easier, accessible place, they just put the fruit and the vegetables in the front of the line or the easier spot for kids to grab, and that improved their eating habits, which improved their health. Another one is how they present our food, the guidelines for food, healthy eating. We used to have it in a pyramid, but what is it now? It's a plate, because what do we eat off of? Not a pyramid, we eat off of a plate, and you can visualize that. Keeps it very simple and convenient. How many of you did not know how to get to divots? How did you get directions? Did you pull out your old Rand McNally? Just type in divots and hit go. That is a nudge. That is a way to make life a little easier. Google Maps. Social norms. This is a big one that I think is pretty applicable to what we could possibly do here. I did not stay here because I had to take Google Maps to get here today and yesterday. But I don't know if there was a little sign in your bathroom that said something about hotel towels. Did they have that here? Or have you stayed at a hotel where they tell you most people reuse their hotel towels? And it's just a word that they said because did you reuse your hotel towel? Because most people reuse their hotel towels. So then you felt the social pressure to then reuse your hotel towel. Another thing they've done is they've done this with energy consumption in households, is they've given household members their energy consumption and compared it to their neighbors. Not saying, the Joneses and the Smiths, the door down, the next door down, they use less energy than you, but making it a very general information and very clean and very nice and neat little graphic that shows you've used more energy than your neighbor. And if, there's averages, there's always people that are going to be below the average. And when they were below the average, if they put just a smiley face next to it or a green light or a thumbs up and said, you're still doing a great job, that energy use maintained below that average, and then the average started to drop. This could be energy consumption, this could be water consumption, it could be nitrate application. And then there's a very successful strategy that's known as the pre-commitment strategy. And they've done this, the ones that wrote the book Nudge, Cass Sunstein and Richard Thaler, they wrote the book Nudge, and then they started doing a program called Save More Tomorrow, where people were pre-committing their pay raises to go into their retirement. So they would have more retirement. So you would commit today and say, when I get a pay raise, I'm going to put that into my retirement. You never saw it anyway, so you'll never notice any difference. That's like saying, oh, I'm going to do a 5K. How can you pre-commit yourself to do a 5K? Sign up, pay the money, and then you've got to run. And then the last one is, how did you all get up this morning? With the sun? I don't think it's up yet. A reminder, like an alarm, something very, very, very simple to make your life a lot easier. So, or warnings and graphics, that would be another kind of reminder. I don't know if they do this in the US, but in other countries, like when I lived in New Zealand, I saw a pack of cigarettes, and it was the most disgusting thing I'd ever seen, because it was the cigarettes with a picture of someone's mouth that had been degraded from smoking. I know they do that with the chewing commercials lately, but they had them on the pack of cigarettes. You go and you buy, and every time you flip that up, you see that negative image. So these are all very easy, simple things that can be done, and hopefully I've sparked some ideas in you and how you can maybe sign up for your triathlon or find ways to engage the stakeholders, not only in this room, but in the state. So thank you.